Welcome back everyone. In today's session, I'm going to give you the line-by-line explanation of Maya Angelou's poem When Great Trees Fall. This poem was written after the death of her friend, fellow writer, activist James Baldwin. She read this poem at his funeral, and in this poem she compares the deaths of great people to great trees falling in a forest. This is the metaphor that she uses in the poem. Please take out treasure chest and open page 43, and this section is important. Let us read this section together. Come on. In her poem, When Great Trees Fall, Angelou speaks of loss as a traumatic yet inevitable part of the human experience, one that leaves despair and misery in its wake. Traumatic, painful, and inevitable, which cannot be avoided. Here, Angelou deals with the inevitability of death, and death means loss and separation. So death is painful, death is inevitable, everyone will die, and when someone dies, we are filled with despair, sadness, agony, and misery in its wake. Angelou uses a metaphor of a tree falling in the jungle and its effect on the fauna to describe the enormity of death, the impact when a great individual dies. It's shown through the metaphor of a tree falling in the jungle. However, the poem moves beyond the emptiness and sense of loss to offer hope for healing in the concluding lines. There is emptiness, there is sense of loss, sadness, agony, pain, and then there is hope and consolation for healing as well in this poem. They existed, we can be and be better. So there is a scope for being better, for they existed. These words give new meaning and seem to bring fresh purpose to life. Angelou declares that because this great soul existed, we can be better. The footprints left by the great souls on the passage of time, we can follow those footprints, we can learn from the lessons taught by them, we can set their works and contributions as our example, and we can be better intellectually, spiritually. Readers are comforted. So there is hope and consolation in this poem. It is not completely bleak. Readers are comforted. Assurance is provided by Angelou that others who have felt such grievous pain have not only healed but been made better human beings simply from having known the great soul. The contributions of the great soul on society. We might never be the same again. When a great soul dies, society changes, we also change, but after some time, we come to terms with the loss, we reconcile ourselves to our lot, and then we have a new outlook towards life. The pain and sorrow may never leave us. We will always remember the great soul, and we will feel sad for the loss, but the memory and influence of the great soul will linger. They will continue to shape and affect our lives. Angelou declares that because this great one existed, we can be better versions of ourselves. So this is the hope. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. The speaker describes what happens when huge trees collapse. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. The poem opens with a metaphor of the falling of great trees. Now this symbolizes the loss, the death of a significant individual. The shuddering rocks represent the impact, the profound effect that the loss has on the world around him. Shudder, to tremble or shake. Out of fear, and in this context, in response to a significant event. And what is a significant event? the falling of great trees, metaphorically symbolizing the death of a great soul. Lions hunker down. Now, hunker down, to squat close to the ground. Lions crouch in fear, or they stay in a place for a while. And here it refers to animals like lions trying to make themselves small or hide in response to danger. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. Lumber, to move in a slow, heavy and awkward way. Here it describes the elephant's movement as they move to seek safety. This metaphor is significant. The first stanza begins with a metaphor. Now, great trees. What is the symbolism over here? The great trees symbolize great souls, larger than life individuals. Individuals who nurture the world around them and whose deaths affect everything in their orbit. When these giant trees collapse in the forest, the impact is felt far and wide. Creatures large and small are shocked, surprised, or even cower in fear. And we have the mention of lions, elephants, and rocks over here in the first stanza. And the mention of lions, elements, and rocks in the first stanza elaborates, highlights just how powerful such losses can be. Falling trees can make even the strongest and most fearsome elements of the natural world tremble or crouch down in shock. Similarly, the poem suggests that the loss of great individuals feels utterly earth-shaking. Now, rocks, lions, elephants, all are associated with strength. Large rocks on the hilltops are heavy and immobile. Lions are supposed to be fearsome predators, the kings of the jungle. They are the kings of the jungle. And elephants are also enormous, slow-moving creatures. Yet all these figures feel the impact of the falling trees and they shudder with fear. The falling of great trees shakes up everything around them. So large creatures also feel the impact. When great trees fall in forest, small things also react. The impact is felt by the small things as well. And how do they react? The small things recoil into silence. Their senses eroded beyond fear. So small things recoil into silence, their senses. What is the figure of speech? The figure of speech here is alliteration. When these huge trees collapse in the woods, little creatures curl up in silence, too shocked to even be frightened or scared. When great souls die, what happens? When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. We breathe briefly. Alliteration, our eyes briefly see with a heartful clarity. Now, the deaths of exceptional people have a similar impact on humanity, on mankind. So in the first stanza, large creatures. In the second stanza, small creatures. In the third stanza, we have the impact felt by humanity. In the absence of the exceptional people, the air itself feels flimsy, devoid of life, light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. We gasp and see things with a sudden burst of sharp, painful clarity. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory suddenly sharpened, again alliteration, examines. Our memory suddenly examines. This loss makes our memories more precise, and we keep thinking about the nice things we wish we had said while a great soul, a particular great soul, was still alive, and on the walks we said they would take together but never did. Gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. The speaker has used the plural pronoun us in this stanza. This suggests that these great souls touched the lives of many people. Our eyes, we, us. This shows that these great souls touched the lives of many people, and so their loss is felt widely. The speaker suggests that the bereaved find their senses overwhelmed by the loss of their loved ones. Their eyes see only briefly. These short bursts of sight are tinged by a hurtful clarity. So after the death of a loved one, the people seem to see nothing at all, and when they do see, it becomes too painfully clear to them that the world has changed forever, and the things will never be the same without the great soul they are grieving for. So this is stanza number 3. The word gnaws is suggestive of the fact that with loss comes a terrible emptiness. There is a sense of regret after a loved one's passing, kind words that were never spoken and promises that were never kept. Great souls die, and our reality bound to them takes leave of us. So with the passing away of a great soul, a person that we deeply admired or loved, our reality changes, leaving us feeling smaller and less nourished. So our whole outlook changes after the death of the loved ones or the great souls. The world was inextricably tied up with their existence. We relied on their tender care and guidance. So now our own souls shrivel up. We lose our grip on our minds. Our reality changes. There is confusion. And we lose our grip on our minds, which their brilliance had shaped and enlightened. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, shrivel up, weazened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We do eventually fall apart. There is a sense of loss, confusion. We do not know what to do. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. This is the impact. We are not so much maddened. Now we do not become crazy or mad, as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves, alliteration. So we do not go crazy exactly. It is more that our minds are diminished, returned to the unspeakable crudeness of the stone ages. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms. So after the initial shock, emptiness, sense of loss, after a period, peace blooms. So it is not that bleak. Peace blooms slowly. It takes time to come to terms with this loss, and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. So we do eventually begin to feel a sense of peace, though this comes in fits and starts rather than all at once. The emptiness created by the loss of these people begins to fill up with a charged, comforting hum. The numbness fades and we are able to perceive the world again. Our senses restored, never to be the same. Our outlook completely change. Whisper to us, they existed, we can be and be better, for they existed, the contributions of these exceptional people to society. We are able to perceive the world again, though we will never experience things as we did before this loss. We begin to take comfort in the mere fact that this person lived at all. We can go on living, continuity of life. We can go on living and live more meaningful lives because this person lived, for they existed. So, the great souls set examples for mankind to follow. And this is the hope, this is the healing process that mankind goes through. And as a civilization, mankind has survived for so long because of this healing process. Now the departed's influence on our life fades, leaving us in a state of profound ignorance, confusion. But despite the grief, Angelou suggests that with time, peace returns, filling the void left by the departed with a healing, comforting energy. And slowly we regain our senses and we come to acknowledge the existence and significance of the lost souls. And the final lines of the poem encourage us to live on and strive to become better individuals. We get a fresh purpose to live, and we try to honor the memory and the legacy of the people who have passed away. Now let us take an example. Now, respected APJ Abdul Kalam, he is no longer with us. He has passed away, but his contribution to society, his numerous endeavors still inspire us. So, and because of his contributions to society, our outlook towards life has also changed. Yes, we do miss him. We feel sad when we think that he is no more with us, but the footprints that he has left behind in the form of his great works, inventions and contributions, those footprints encourage a lot of us to carry on the legacy of the great man. Quickly, let us discuss the themes of this poem: loss, grief and acceptance. So here we have the inevitability of death, and the poem suggests that although grief may feel all-consuming at first, survivors can eventually find acceptance and peace by remembering the contributions of the great souls they lost. Theme number 2, individual greatness and cultural change. This poem explores the way a single person can create massive cultural change. The poem suggests that great souls have an enormous impact on the world around them, both in life and death. They reshape their entire culture. And the poem depicts the individual deaths of great people as having a profound collective impact. Influence and legacy is another important theme. The poem suggests that these individuals shape our realities, form and inform our minds, provide a sense of safety and guidance, which is similar to a great tree in a forest. A great tree provides shelter, food, shade, and so on. So when a great tree falls, the impact is felt by creatures large and small. Healing and renewal, another important theme. The theme highlights the resilience of the human spirit and the possibility of growth and transformation even after a significant loss. Memory is another theme. The repeated lines, they existed, emphasize the importance of acknowledging the presence and significance of the departed souls. We have the power of memory and the importance of honoring and remembering the ones who have passed away. And after this, the figures of speech, metaphor, I have already discussed this. The great trees represent influential figures or great souls. And then the falling of the great tree means death. And the trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, metaphorically conveys the profound impact of their loss. We have imagery in the very first stanza. The lions, the elephants, the rocks, this is imagery. Personification is another figure of speech. Rocks on distant hills shudder. Rocks personified. When great trees fall, just observe the repetition over here. And this repetition is used to highlight the profound impact of such a loss. Symbolism. Angelou uses symbols to convey deeper meanings. Great trees symbolize strong, influential people. Dark, cold caves symbolize despair and ignorance. It's here in this stanza. Alliteration as well as symbolism.